think we're here in a sec. Yeah, I know. Can't believe we don't have that up. Dogs, you can't fight right now. We're going to be live.
You're doing it like right under my feet.
What'd you name it?
03, 27, 25.
03, 27. You didn't share. Hurry.
Yeah, I did.
Just do it again.
I actually did. See, you're already in it.
I got it. Verifying that we're live. Doesn't look like it. Yes. All right. Perfect. Let me get Mike up here in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, patriots all over our country that is under God, welcome to tonight's Red America First Town Hall, the nation's most engaging platform where we, the people, run the show. Red for the blood of Christ, America First policies and candidates, and I'm your host, Ashley Weiss. Welcome to Hashtag Town Hall by Red America First, where the spirit of our nation's founders meets the challenges of tomorrow. For 3 years, we stood as a beacon of unity and strength, draped in our symbolic red of our conviction, dedicated to the America First policies and our Christian values that our nation was founded on. Here we gather not to discuss just issues, but act, empowering our community through education, engagement, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Our boots on the ground, tackling corruption head on, and our weekly town hall, igniting the conversations that matter. We're the forefront of a movement that wants to ensure a free, prosperous, and vibrant future for all Americans. Join us as we blend heritage with vision, shaping a stronger and more unified America.
And I'm your co-host, Valerie Weiss. I'm excited to introduce our guest tonight. We are joined with Mike McCormick, former White House stenographer turned whistleblower, whose explosive new book, An Almost Insurmountable Evil, How the Deep State Defiled the Catholic Church and Executed the Wuhan Plandemic, takes aim at two criminal presidents and a compromised Vatican. From uncovering CIA infiltration to exposing Obama's deep state operatives, Mike's got a story the legacy media won't touch. Let's dive in. But first, we have exciting announcements to make. Do not forget our newly started podcast every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pastor's Point. And mark your calendars. April 7th, we will be having Pastor Bart Denny discussing faith, service, and revival. And on April 28th, we're thrilled to welcome David Rossler, a 40-year East Coast movie industry veteran and genius behind God's Armored. Tonight, help us spread the word about his incredible World War II film. Visit godsarmored.com for all the links, like, share, and comment. And do not miss David's story next month. Pastor's Point's goal is to teach and encourage others about the truth of Jesus Christ. Our goal is to share the gospel of Jesus and grow in the knowledge of the Word of God and encourage all to adhere to biblical principles.
We all need support from our viewers and those that have the will to help. Our team relies on the support of our viewers and donors, and we appreciate the help. Even $20 could help us on our national mission. Go to givesendgo.com/RedAmericaFirst/donate. And those that are watching the live stream right now, we're looking to grow our live audience panel. Panel members are able to engage directly with guest speakers like Mike McCormick tonight and participate in the famous state-to-state intel round. Sign up, redamericafirst.com. Tell us what state you're in and you want to be a panel member. Everyone, let's start with prayer. I'm going to call up Dr. Aaron Gray up here, and he will lead us into prayer. I don't see Pastor Aaron Gray, so that is a problem. Let me see. Wendy, would you lead us into prayer tonight?
Sure. If you'd bow your heads. Father, once again, we come before you, Lord God, and just looking, Father God, to do what is right in your sight, Father, for this country, Lord, to bring the truth out, Father. And Lord, I pray, Father God, that as these guest speakers come on, I pray for our guest speaker tonight, Father God, and thank you for him, Lord. I pray, Lord God, that you shine your light on the dark doings, Father God, of people that are manipulated, Father, by the enemy, Lord. I pray, Father God, that you would shine your light on the truth, that you would shine your light on the corruption, that it would be brought forth, that we would be able to share it in a simple and straightforward way, Lord, that others would come to know the truth of what is happening, Father. And we ask your blessing upon this, Lord. We ask that we bless you in this tonight, Father. Please be with us tonight, Father. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Valerie Weiss, co-founder Red America First, will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much, Valerie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for that. And we're going to call on Pastor's Point co-host Wendy Stockhausen, Pastor Wendy Stockhausen, to do the national anthem. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And please, I hope y'all will just kind of sing along. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Amazing job. As always, Wendy, thank you so much for doing that tonight.
Thank you so much.
And now let's get our guest speaker up here, front and center. It is Mike McCormick. Wow, what a good way to start this episode tonight with you, Mike. We're pleased that you came back to hashtag Town Hall tonight. Honored to have you, as always.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be back with you, Ashley and Valerie.
Why do you think, we want to talk to you about so many things, but why do you think the New York Times is downplaying the CIA-Vatican link that you exposed, and how does the MAGA media fill the gap on this story? Thank you so much, Mike. We love you.
Well, that was the topic of my Substack yesterday. It surprised me. Somebody sent me a link that said, hey, the New York Times was talking about the Vatican in the Kennedy files. So they dug back into the Kennedy files in the 60s. And there was some discussion. I actually went back in to the Kennedy files and looked around there for a little while. There's some interesting stuff in there. But there's always been a carryover between the CIA and the Vatican. And in fact, the CIA started as OSS. I'm not sure exactly what the OSS stands for. It was like Office of Strategic Services or something in World War II. A guy named Donovan started it, did a lot out of Rome. And that's where they started the intelligence. And they used the Vatican intelligence network to set up sort of how they do it. And if you look at the Vatican, if you look at the Catholic Church and the history of it, it is an intelligence operation. They're a global operation. They've got representation in all the countries around the world. They've got local contacts, the parishes, and the priests in the parishes go into the community and they get basic intelligence. People come into the church and talk to them. They know what's happening in the communities. So then that goes back into Rome through the channels, and Rome has a pretty good sense of what's going on around the world. So it's, if the CIA is going to kind of mimic what they're doing, that's similar. The CIA is a lot more manipulative than the Catholic Church. I'm a Catholic. I came back to the Catholic Church a year ago after being away for several decades. I was born a Catholic. I went to Catholic school from first to sixth grade. But I recognize there's a difference between what the church is, how I go to church and hear the priests and follow the services and participate in the sacraments, and what the Vatican does. And a year ago, I stumbled across information. Basically, it was Alex Jones was talking about, he had this sense of this overwhelming evil. I was watching a show for a little while, and he was talking about this. He was really emotional about it, and it made me think, what was the most evil thing I experienced at the White House? And it was the relationship between Joe Biden and this guy, Theodore McCarrick, who was a cardinal. Well, McCarrick was a rapist of altar boys and seminarians. He was an evil man. And Joe Biden had him as his spiritual advisor. So a year ago, I started digging into it, and that's what led to the book, A Case to Impeach and Imprison Joe Biden. And I think McCarrick was a CIA operative who was groomed into the CIA in the 60s. And this is, the New York Times story was, to me, a cover story. They're trying to get ahead of what the CIA did with the Vatican. And it was, we were sort of, we had contacts with the Pope, and the top guy in the CIA would talk to the Pope back then in the 60s. And, there were some meetings, but we're not really, they didn't didn't go into detail about it. But the current Pope, Pope Francis, in the 1970s was directly involved with the right-wing dictators in Argentina. These were the guys that were doing the silent war. And that comes out in the movie, The Two Popes. There's a segment of the movie where they look at his early years, kind of how he developed. And he has this connection with these dictators, and the priests that he's working for get kidnapped and tortured. Some priests the priests that were there were murdered, assassinated by the dictators. And the reason was because the Catholic Church then was sort of split. They were either on the side with the dictators, the right wing, and they were backed by the CIA. The right wingers in Argentina during the Dirty War were backed by the CIA, because the other part of the church was working with the leftist side. That was the revolutionaries, the unions, and the poor people. And so that's where the priests got in trouble, working with the poor people. But that's what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's their parish. So it's a very suspicious. There's a lot of suspicion around what his name was, Bergoglio, when he was there. Now he's Pope Francis. So those two, that's McCarrick and Bergoglio, connect in the Obama years, and they did terrible things. And that's the point of the book.
Yeah, that was kind of my next question: is how Obama's deep state used ex-cardinal McCarrick to undermine the Vatican's moral authority. And what's the smoking gun in your book? Would you say that would be the child molestation and stuff like that?
Well, it goes way beyond the child molestation. I mean, to me, the child molestation that McCarrick did and was unfortunately rampant throughout the church, I think they did that because I think in McCarrick's case specifically, he felt like he could do whatever he wanted because he was a CIA guy. In the 90s, he started working for the State Department. He was bishop in New Jersey, and he started coming to Washington, would go around the world for the State Department, on this sort of this office of religious freedom was what they called it. And he would go to China. He would go to Iran. He would go to the sensitive places. And because of that, I to me, that was him gathering intelligence. Well, he started moving his way up the ladder. He got big friends here. And the other thing that that makes me suspicious about him is he was a fundraiser. That was his special sauce. So he would go around to the priests in faraway, far-flung places and hand out money, and to the bishops. And that's what the CIA does. So what happened with Obama was he moved up the ladder. And then in 2008, Obama comes in, and one of his chief operatives, a guy named Dennis McDonough. And McDonough started working with McCarrick, in that the smoking gun is in the White House visitor logs. They had meetings month upon month, and always at very important times in sort of the development of policy. And so, what came out of it is that McCarrick and McDonough collaborated. McCarrick was the voice back into the Vatican. I think he helped influence the Vatican conclave that elected Bergoglio into being Pope Francis. He talked about that. I go into great detail in the book about that. And then they started working on policy. They worked on the Iran nuclear deal. They worked on betraying Chinese Catholics and turning the underground Chinese Catholic Church over to the communists, the CCP. And then they also opened up the southern border, and they did that with cartels, and they did that directly with cartels. And that's a big part of the book. So those are the smoking guns. And, this book takes down 2 criminal presidents and a dirty pope. There's a lot there. It's a bigger book than anybody in New York Times has ever written. I guarantee that.
Well, in relation to this, your view, how did the Vatican silence on the Wuhan pandemic align with the deep state's goals in your book?
Right. So then, there's 3 parts to the book. There's the part about McCarrick and doing all this stuff with the Obama people. There's a middle part where basically I say, Joe Biden was the key figure in this, because Joe Biden was very good friends with McCarrick. He knew him for decades. He helped him rise up the ladder. He was the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. He did a lot of foreign relations work out of Washington. He knew what was going on around the world, and he probably had McCarrick doing things for him. And so when Biden became vice president, McCarrick became very close with Biden, and through this Dennis McDonough connection, worked his way into the Vatican. But I'm sorry, what was your question?
About the Vatican silence on the Wuhan pandemic aligned with the deep state's goals in your book.
Right. So Biden is the one that benefited from the Wuhan plandemic. And what happened was, Pope Francis was basically sitting in the background. He didn't like Trump. They didn't get along. They sort of on the surface they were okay, but Francis was so, anti-immigrant. He was against the wall. He was against Trump blockading illegal immigration. Pope was saying, build bridges, not walls. And that's, by the way, a big part of that movie, The Two Popes. I think the movie The Two Popes is really interesting, but it's also CIA propaganda. And that movie, by the way, came out in 2019 in October. So in 2020, for the Academy Awards, they have The Two Popes gets all these awards. It's up for awards. They didn't win any, but they were nominated. So just as the whole country is shutting down around COVID, the Academy Awards is featuring this movie about these 2 popes and how great they are. And this guy has this background in Argentina that's kind of sketchy, but he comes out to be a good guy in the end. And lo and behold, the whole world is hurtling towards lockdowns. The Academy Awards happens in mid-February. A month after it happens, Pope Francis walks out to an empty. It was 5 years ago today, to an empty St. Peter's Square, and in Rome, and offers a mass. It's televised to Catholics all around the world. He says, "Don't come to church." For the first time in 500 years. The last time they shut down, the church went through wars. They went through everything. But the last time they shut down was the Black Death in like the 1500s. So 500 years. And he says, we have to stay home. No one's died at that point. A few people have died in China, and a few people have died in Italy, and Sweden has said, we're not locking down. They never did, and they never stopped doing Swedish things. But Pope Francis comes out, and he did this for the globalists. He did this for Biden, and they shut down the world, and they scared Catholics. Catholics were in need of spiritual guidance, and he fed them fear, and he made everybody scared. And, one of the things I talk about in the book was what Obama and Biden used Pope Francis for was morality laundering. He was the moral voice. He was the wise old man of Rome that everybody looked up to. 1.2 billion Catholics around the world heard about the Pope saying, don't come into church. You can watch services on TV. And some of the priests were incensed. There were priests out there who said, no, we're not stopping our religious services. This isn't real. And so there was a real division in the church, and it affected the church to this day. People stayed home and they never came back. I go to church. I said I was been going to church for a year. I've heard priests preach from the altar. You guys went home for the pandemic and watched on TV, and nobody comes to church anymore. And that's what happened. And that was the Pope who did that to his own church. It couldn't have been more destructive. It had been done by the devil himself.
Wow. So members that are on the town hall panel, get ready to raise your hands and interact with Mike McCormick directly. And remember to limit your questions to 30 seconds. Thank you. Go ahead, Valerie.
Yeah, you kind of touched on my next question again, but the Vatican's betrayal of faithful Catholics under deep state pressure. So that's kind of, it is about telling them not to come to church. And are there any other takeaways you might have for the conservatives other than, the staying at home and all that kind of stuff?
What other takeaways would you have on?
Well, it's not specific to the Wuhan stuff. That's basically, that was the damage done. That was right when that shutdown came just as they were advocating for all the mail-in ballots. You got to, let's stay home. We got to redo the laws, change the laws. There were a lot of, one of the things I talked about in the book, there were a lot of laws that were changed by Norm Eisen. And that started in November. He started changing voting laws in November and ramped it up in September, January, before things were really broke out over here. And then once things broke out, then they really ramped it up. And that's when all those lawsuits came out, and every lawsuit they won. And those were all the lawsuits that changed mail-in ballot rules and things like that. So and the Pope was part of it. That St. Petersburg Square service that he did 5 years ago today was part of that. I've seen some clips of it on social media today on X, and it's haunting to see. They make it look like he's doing this great religious sort of gift of comfort to the masses. He was feeding them fear, and that's what his job was, straight out of the globalist playbook.
Wow. Yeah. So what was the most shocking Vatican secret you've uncovered in your book that the deep state hoped would stay buried?
What's the best topic in your opinion?
Well, so I did actually go to the Vatican once with Joe Biden in 2016. And I was in the same, sort of in a big auditorium watching Joe Biden up on a stage with Pope Francis. And he talked about the cancer moonshot. That was sort of the general idea of that trip there. But I think it was really Joe Biden behind the scenes telling the Pope what to do about Trump, because Trump was really starting to come on. This was the spring of 2016. And so they were plotting and planning, and they had to do it face to face. Hunter Biden was there. For some reason, he was there in the Vatican with him secretly.
Wow.
I didn't know that until about a year ago. So that was the Vatican. But, what I found in the book was the evidence that happened in the White House. And what really happened there was they had a huge drug operation being run out of Honduras in 2014. And the U.S. knew about it. They had the brother of the president of Honduras, a guy named Juan Orlando Hernandez, was smuggling drugs. He and his brother were smuggling drugs in our country by the ton. And one of the generals who we've heard a lot about, General John F. Kelly, he became Trump's White House chief of staff. At the time, he was in charge of Southern Command. So his area of expertise was down there in South America. He got very close with this guy, Orlando Hernandez. He knew what he was doing. And, you know, I don't know if General Kelly was under orders from Barack Obama to let the drug smuggling go on, but that's what happened. And so this drug smuggling happens. And then in 2014, there was all these unaccompanied minors that popped up on the border. 60,000 kids just showed up, getting escorted there by the cartels, the coyotes and the cartels. And the question was never really answered. Why? Who told them to? I think it might have been the church. I think it might have been Obama and the Vatican put their heads together, because Obama went to the Vatican in March of 2014. They had a face-to-face meeting there. And it was like weeks after that, all of a sudden, all these kids started showing up at the southern border. And so what happened was, over the summer, they put together something called the Alliance for Prosperity. And that's when our tax money went to Honduras, $500 million. Joe Biden put together, it was his pet project, the Alliance for Prosperity. From 2014 to 2016, $500 million went to the drug smuggling president of Honduras, who was part of the Sinaloa cartel that was smuggling children up across the border. And that's the really ugly part. I mean, there are rape trees along the southern border because of what Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Dennis McDonough and Theodore McCarrick and Pope Francis did that summer. And then when Joe Biden came back in 2021 through just now, that's when it was all unleashed.
Wow. We are opening up Q&A with Mike McCormick right now. The first question's coming from North Carolina. Eric Stevenson, go ahead. Wendy and South Carolina's on deck. Go ahead, Eric. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. I'm here in North Carolina, right outside the gates of Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Oh, man. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
We're back. Fort Bragg is back. My question is, just growing up as a PK, a preacher's kid, over the years, Christianity and Catholicism have always pretty much aligned very closely. And it just seems like over the years, at least from maybe from the Pope standpoint, that they're sliding to the left. What would you say, what would it take, in your opinion, for them to come back center and almost go back to the right and be more closely aligned with what we've known as traditional Christian values? What do you think it would take?
Well, we got to get the CIA out of the Vatican. I was on, I've been out telling people for a couple of weeks now, they should, we want to have J.D. Vance lead an investigation into this McCarrick setup, why McCarrick was doing so much with McDonough, whether or not he was involved in setting up this papacy, the Pope Francis papacy, and really get an investigation. And, they're starting to pull stuff apart. I mean, the Kennedy notes coming out is an indication that the CIA has to back off from what they've been used to getting away with. And I hope that, when they defunded USAID, that was a big part of it too. So, and USAID in the book, if you read it, you'll see they played a huge part in setting up the Wuhan Plandemic. They were basically the funding source for where Fauci got all the gain of function money that he spent down in Wuhan. So, they've got to get the CIA out of the Vatican and just turn it over to the people and the church, and have be a conclave where it's actually the will of God, not the CIA, that chooses who the Pope is. That'd be good.
That was a very good question, Eric. Thank you so much for that. Now we're going to go to South Carolina. Wendy, thank you in advance.
Thank you, sir, for being on. And wow, that was, I never heard of this before. So a couple just real quick. So I'm assuming we can get your books on Amazon. Is that right? Or
yes, book is on Amazon. And
okay. Okay. And then, so, and you may address this in your book, but if you could give us kind of the short keynote version, like what can we as just the little people, if you will, other than obviously praying to our very big God, what can we as the little people do? How do we help facilitate this? Like just your normal everyday average person like myself. How do we get that role? How do we help get that like really moving?
That is a really good question. And the reason it's a good question is because the church needs us more than ever.
Yes. Sir.
And, there's a darkness that's come over the church. I mean, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of information coming out about, the pedophile activities of so many priests, almost to the point where it was like a culture. And I've been reading other books about it and getting caught up to it, but it's so insidious. And so we've got to stand up to the lady has to stand up and demand from the clergy to behave right and do right. And for instance, in Washington, our bishop right now is a guy named Bishop McElroy. He was basically taught his job by Theodore McCarrick. He's a protege of Theodore McCarrick. So there's a lot of people in this town right now who are just, throwing their hands up saying, well, Francis brought this bad guy right back in here. What's going on? And I've talked to priests. I've gone to confession and talked to priests in confession. And some of them are just absolutely defiant. Like, do not talk to me about that. Get out of here and, go do something else. Don't talk to me about the Pope being part of the CIA or the Pope being illegitimate. There's a lot of Catholics who can't hear that. There's media who won't let me talk about it on their media. So I appreciate this, Ashley and Valerie. So talk to people about it. Buy the book, share the book around. And that's your best way. Some priests get it. The priests that know that there's a rottenness in the heart of the church, they understand it, and they're heart sick too. They don't know what to do about it because it's so far up the ladder there in the Vatican, in Rome. And so, the fact is, taking out the funding is a huge part of it. So Trump is doing a good job. Support the removal of Catholic NGOs every chance you get, and get them out of that game. And that's where you have to go.
Thank you, Wendy, for that one. So now we're going to go to the Lone Star State. Doug, Texas, go ahead. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of quick questions. One of which is, revolves around that movie Spotlight, which talked about highlighted. It's one of my favorite movies, just because, not that I care for that many people, but I think more of the world needs to know more about that. But how does that interplay with what you're talking about now? And then the other question, and it may have nothing to do with it, but Mel Gibson was on a talk show somewhere, and he was talking about the split of the Catholic Church back in like the 60s. Right. Can you illuminate that a little bit?
So I'm not a theologian. I call myself, I'm a thin ice Catholic. I go into church, I'm on thin ice. But I do say a rosary I either say a rosary every day or I go to church. So I do one of the two every day. About Mel Gibson, he's right. He's come out and said, this Pope is doing terrible things. He's a globalist. There's a lot of confusion over why this guy is, talking about, the environment, and we've got to, it's like the Green New Deal coming out of the Vatican too, not just out of the Democrats. So he's definitely a mouthpiece for the Democrats, and that's why they put him in there. So that's Mel Gibson. The Spotlight stuff, I've been reading a book by a journalist who was a CNN journalist who was in on kind of the ground floor of the Spotlight stuff. And, there is so much, it is so awful, the stories and the evil that these priests were willing to commit against young kids and children. And, just the sin is just, I found it shocking. And so you're right. The spotlight was good to get that out. I think there's a lot of Hollywood cover up about, I've written a couple Substacks. So the movie 3 Days of Condor, I just wrote a Substack about that and looked at that. That movie came out in 1975 as a famous movie about the CIA. Well, there's connections between the Condor, the guy's name is Condor, the CIA operation in Argentina that used Pope Francis was going on at that time was called Operation Condor. So why did they name that guy Condor in the movie while they had a secret operation in South America called Condor? There's connections there. And so there's a lot of Hollywood connections. Spotlight, the two popes, Conclave, 3 Days of the Condor. And I think there's a lot of cover story laid out into our culture by the CIA that infects the Catholic Church and our culture generally. And the Catholic Church, I mean, they just hid behind some terrible, terrible things. The government didn't look into it. And basically what it was the church had this thing called canon law. And they basically excused themselves because some of these acts weren't recognized as being crimes in canon law. And so the church was the sort of police, was sort of supposed to police itself, was the Justice Department that was supposed to do it. So they didn't let these cases get out into the legal system. They kept them inside the church. And that's why it got out of hand. They didn't police themselves, and they used canon law to hide behind.
Wow, very good questions, Doug, from Texas. Now we're going to go to the sunny state of Florida. Rosemarie, you're up.
First of all, thank you so much for all the information. And I do have a couple of concerns. Number one, why do you suppose that they called the Catholics domestic terrorists from the FBI? Because that certainly separates the Catholics from, the church. And also, there's a supposition out there that the real Pope right now has passed away and someone is acting as the Pope right now. Could that be a possibility? And would that be because they want to continue this agreement or whatever the connection is between the Pope and what is going on? Might that be a possibility?
Yeah, good questions. About the Pope. So yeah, he was sick and hidden away. We didn't know what was going on. I think they've had some proof of life evidence that it's actually him. They've had him on TV and some videos over the last couple of days. So he's definitely back, but he's on, he's not well. One of the people I talk about in my book is the guy who's a lot of people think will take over for him. He's the current Vatican Secretary of State named Cardinal Parolin. Parolin's a bad guy. And that's part of the reason to get the word of the book out is if there is another conclave, it has to be broadly known. This guy Parolin was involved in setting up the trafficking and the drugs and the Catholic non-government organizations that were involved in it. And he was the one actually who went to China and betrayed the Chinese Catholic Church. That's what Cardinal Zen, who's the head of the Chinese Catholic Church, has said. I have that in the book. And I've been in touch with Archbishop Vigano. He's the guy who basically was the whistleblower out of the Vatican that said, Pope Francis knew about McCarrick, and he knew he was a bad guy with kids. This was back in 2018 when McCarrick was first found out. Well, what they didn't know was how much activity was coming out of the White House with McCarrick and McDonough. And that's what my books implied. And when he found that out, he got in touch with me and was like, wow, this is really important. So he's really valuing what I'm doing. I'm praying for him. He prays for me. I've been in touch with Cardinal Zen. just praying for him. He's in communist China. I don't really want to try to tell him about the book because it could get him in trouble. So, and some of the prominent Catholics in China are in jail right now. They got arrested and jailed for, like 5 years now. A guy named Jimmy Lai is prominent, like a billionaire guy who ran media company in Hong Kong. He was pro-Catholic and, kind of anti-lockdowns and anti-communist party, and they put him in jail. So he's, there's a lot of people worried about him. So your question was about the Catholics and why the FBI was looking at Catholics. That is the politicization of the church that Bergoglio allowed, that Pope Francis allowed that to happen. That should never have happened like that. But that was, progressive Catholics not caring what happened with conservative Catholics. And that's where we are right now in the church. There's a real division, just like there is in our country.
Well, that was a great question there from Florida, Rosemarie. We're going to go up to Ohio now. Danielle is a new panel member tonight, so she's asking her first question on Town Hall. Thank you for coming on, Danielle. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's such a pleasure to meet you, Mike.
Yeah.
So I'm with the advocacy work that I do, I work with victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, and corruption. So I hear it all. And I'm curious what the stance is with that. I mean, being that there's, so many mega churches are getting in trouble for, having ties to trafficking, and obviously the cartels and the borders and all the things just kind of come together and all spider webs out, but still connected. Right. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that and what you've kind of run across in regards to that.
Well, McCarrick was this guy who was brought up through the ranks. He was very closely involved with Catholic Relief Services and the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. He was a board member of both, or he was on the boards or advisor to the boards. And so when he started doing these meetings with McDonough in 2014, and they set up this whole Alliance for Prosperity, they put those NGOs right in the center of it all. And the Pope knew it. So they're putting the Vatican, putting church assets in with cartels, with cartel devils. They, network the church into the cartels. So those are the things. And what happened was when Biden got elected, and the book takes you through, there was a pandemic that came out. It wasn't really a pandemic. It was done to set up Biden's fraudulent election. And then when he comes in, they opened up the floodgates. $3.5 billion went to the Catholic Church, these NGOs, for all this trafficking and this refugee support. And that's what DOJ is digging into. And they've shut down a lot of it. They've cut off the funding. Yeah, exactly. And so, that's where we are. So there's going to be books written about that end of it, where sort of the tail end of it. But the cleanup system is underway, thank God.
Thank you, Danielle, for your first question on Town Hall. Now we're going to go to one of our political pillar leaders, Mike Velarde, Florida, and John Ohio's on deck. Megaso corruption pillar leaders coming on too. Rob Ohio's coming. Patsy, Ohio. Mike, you're on. Go for it, buddy. Thanks.
Hey, Mike. Great to see you down the show again. It's always a pleasure.
Tweak your mic. Tweak your mic.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Mike always has a problem with his mic. Mike, he'll be right back, Mike.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, does that work?
Yeah, that's good. I can hear you.
All right. So what you're talking about is basically found in the Bible in Revelation 17 and 18, the great prostitute, the great whore. I mean, the only person that could be the false prophet is the Pope. That's why you have an evil one in now in St. Francis. And the other guy, if you were to succeed him, would this be Cardinal Pernilla, because it fulfills Bible prophecy.
Huh. Wow.
Okay.
Well, let's hope he doesn't succeed. That's why we got to get the word out.
Exactly. And it's very specific. It talks about she glorified herself and lived in luxury. So to match it, she's a queen, and all of a sudden God's going to judge her and destroy her because of all her sins.
Wow.
And when you look at the sins of the Catholic Church, what does the Catholic Church says? Don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Instead, it says, look at the prayers of the saints. It becomes a general thing instead of a specific relationship type thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did Jesus do? He spent so much time in prayer. When he chastised why they don't pray. In other words, God wants us to have personal relationships.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And Pope Francis is doing everything against God's word. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but in Brazil, they have St. Peter. And the very day that Pope Francis put his pen to paper and said it's okay for homosexuality, there was a lightning storm, and you could see the pictures online, and it took off the halo and the keys that were in his hand.
Wow. Huh.
That was
I
no
didn't know
coincidence. That was no coincidence.
Yeah.
So God's giving us signs. He's showing us. And what you're seeing here is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Wow. I talk about in the book, I didn't write this book, but it has to be written.
Yes.
And, I get asked this reasonably often, are you ever scared? And I'm not scared. I mean, I feel like I'm under the protection of St. Michael. I've invoked his protection in the writing of the book, and this is God's will. God is working through us, all of us. And so we've got to stand up to this evil that's in the church, that's in God's church, that's in Jesus's church. And so that's what we're doing.
Perfect question, Mike. Thank you. We're adding another new panel member from Ohio as well. John Stubbins, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and go ahead with your questions, sir. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. And right book, Mike.
Hey, John.
I just wanted to say a couple quick things here, and kind of get at this from a different angle. But you touched my heart when you're talking about the trafficking side of this, and obviously going back to the Wuhan lab with the CCP and our investigation there. We've got 10 open active investigations right now, Mike. And first and foremost on my mind here the last few months has been my investigation into Adam Schiff and bringing him down. But, we also can never take our eye off that border situation with child trafficking, obviously, on top of the drugs and everything else that's coming in. And you see the MS-13 gang members and these other gangs around the country being caught every day. Well, that's not an accident. Right. But the one thing I wanted to ask you, Mike, a good friend of mine who comes on my show pretty regularly, his name is Trevor Loudon. Have you ever met Trevor?
No.
Okay. I would highly suggest that everybody that's on the panel tonight, if you don't know Trevor, I would look this up. He has a series a while back called The Enemies Within, and he did different topics fell underneath that umbrella. Well, one of the topics was the church. And so if you're looking it up online, it would be The Enemies Within the Church. And I highly suggest that everybody look at that because that was done a few years ago, and it was very telling when it first came out. And so much of that is true. And it's not just the Catholic Church that's been infected by all this. There's been a huge split in the Christian church, and obviously all the denominations that fall under Protestant, whether it be Baptist or Methodist or Nazarene or whatever it is. So that's happening there as well. Although with the Catholic Church, you've got this Pope who I believe he's evil, just like most of you do, that kind of represents, the Catholic Church. whereas with the Protestant church doesn't really have that one representative. So it's a little bit different situation, but I wouldn't be misled or, bamboozled by the fact that it's just the Catholic Church either, because this is happening in all the Protestant churches.
Yeah, and Jewish NGOs and Muslim, a lot of corruption out there. That's what Doge is really pulling apart and making us aware of, which is so important.
Wow, very good question, John, and good comments. That is his first question on Town Hall, and we're blessed to add him to the panel here. We're going to call on Hawaii now. Question's going to come from our corruption pillar leader, Megeso. Go ahead with your question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Megeso.
For example, in your book, The CIA and the Vatican, do you get into any of the symbology? For example, the central bank Rothschild crest in the Vatican Museum, the Vatican Railroad, and human trafficking?
No, I go specifically to what I saw and heard happen in the White House in front of me, and then what I found in the Hunter Biden laptop. There's a lot of stuff in there of the Hunter Biden laptop in the part where I talk about the Wuhan Plandemic. There's a biowarfare company that the Biden crime family is investing in called Metabiota, and they're the company that set up the Ukraine biolabs. And turns out the Vindmans were part of that. Alexander Vindman was in Ukraine at the time, and there was a guy named Devin Archer. He just got pardoned. So Devin Archer just got pardoned, and we'll see where that goes. That's a really interesting turn of events. He has, I raise his name in my book as someone who is a witness that can put Hunter Biden and Joe Biden directly in this kickback scheme with Metabiota and involve Vindman. And then Vindman goes back to the States and he gets pulled into the National Security Council. And who is the White House chief of staff when that happens? General John Kelly, who was running drugs out of Honduras. So Vindman gets pulled in 2018, and it's in 2019 when President Trump makes a beautiful phone call that Vindman sort of raises a red flag, says, well, this is a illegal call because he targeted a civilian, he targeted an American citizen and for investigation with a foreign country. And so that's what led to the impeachment, the first impeachment. Well, Devin Archer can have some information on that, and he's now hopefully ready to testify. So that's a big thing, Devin Archer being out there. We're trying to get that. I'm trying to get in front of grand juries here in Washington. I've been in touch with the U.S. Attorney here in Washington, D.C., Ed Martin, and haven't heard back. I know he's called me down to be a witness, but I think it'd be, that would be something I could really put some. I would testify, and that would be significant.
Well, were you aware when all the religious leaders from around the world went to the Vatican to kiss the Pope's ring to recognize him as the one world leader?
I didn't know that. No.
Okay. Well, thank you for your information.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Megeso. That's our pillar leader from Hawaii. And now we're going to go back to the cold state of Ohio. Rob, go ahead.
Hey, welcome back, Mike. You always bring us the best stuff.
All right, hey, Rob.
Actually, you just touched on what I was going to ask you, if you had been called up as a witness to any of this yet, since you have an intimate idea of everything that's going on and all the different relationships. So I won't bother you with that. But I will say, and I'm going to pray for you, because you're tweaking noses of the most powerful spy agencies and dirty deeds done dirt cheap agencies around between the Catholic Church, which, thank you, I never thought about how much of a spy network they developed, with the confessions and having that, 500 million people out there as spies. It's amazing.
Right.
But thank you, and I will be praying for you. So Thank you for being on.
All right, great, thanks. Yeah, as far as the testifying, trying to get in front of the grand juries, I think what's happening right now is there's a lot going on. There's so much going on, and Ed Martin hasn't been fully confirmed yet. And this, this judicial sort of pushback they're getting, this judicial activism they're getting out of this guy, especially Boasberg. I mean, they've got their hands full trying to ferret out who the bad guys are. We just saw that with this signal call thing. Who's the bad guy that got, this guy in there, the Atlantic reporter? So there's a lot going on in DC. It'll take a while to get to this investigation. My hope is that J.D. Vance will lead an investigation with some oomph. He's a recent convert to Catholicism. He came in after all this McCarrick stuff, so he's not part of that. That he's untainted by that, and he's also probably so new to the DC scene that he hasn't been compromised by the deep state yet. So I think he's a good chance to get some real, get some work done on that. And they're falling apart. I mean, I right now I'm staying in a house right across from the CIA. I walk up the riverbank and look at the CIA from across the river. And when I grew up, I went canoeing with people that used to canoe to work and to the CIA from this canoe club. And I had friends I was a Montgomery County kid. We knew kids in our junior high school whose parents were in the CIA. They didn't really know it at the time, and later we found out. So there's a lot of CIA connection between this community and and my comfort level with it is it's not, to me, a faraway entity that I fear. Those are my parents and my friends. This is people I went to work with. I actually got passively recruited to be in the CIA after college because my college girlfriend's dad was part of the intelligence community, and he kind of was worried what I was going to do with his daughter if I was going to wind up, getting married to her. So he wanted to line me up with a CIA job, and I wasn't interested. I didn't want to do it. It's not, there's a lot of darkness in the CIA, and there's a lot of darkness in living in the CIA. So that's the CIA.
Wow. We have a third new panel member that's going to ask her first question tonight. Patsy, Ohio, you're up.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Patsy.
I'm an advocate in Ohio for mothers that have had their kids taken away and given to abusers by the state.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm actually a victim of that as well.
Wow.
And they actually gave them to them straight out of prison.
Wow.
So I wanted to ask you if you know the connection between children's services and the trafficking.
I don't know, and that's going to be a real bad story when it comes out. I think there's a lot of network activity. We're at the top end of it. Basically, to me, what was done out of the White House with this Alliance for Prosperity was they just wanted to get millions upon millions of Democratic voters in the country. It was the Great Reset. It was globalist. And they didn't just do it here. They also did it in Europe. On the side of that huge migration of people, they just opened up the floodgates. They threw billions and billions of dollars at it to make it happen because they wanted to hold the voting bloc in underneath their control for the next 100 years or even more, forever. And so that's what the election of 2024 stopped. That's why it's an almost insurmountable evil. They almost won. Donald Trump won and stopped it. And we've got to keep pushing to stop it. I think what you're talking about, there's just a lot of evil on the fringes. So these huge, the White House programs, they have what they want out of it. And then there's just sleazy people that come in on the side and do what their little side sleaze of it is. And there's so much of it. Child pornography out of the Catholic Church. These priests are doing that. They're doing, drug use and all kinds of stuff. So that's the Catholic Church that I, sort of looked into. it's going to be in the civil system too. There's a bureaucracy around it too. And Hollywood is part of it too. So it's just awful. I'm sorry that you had to go through that.
Yeah, I'm currently still going through it, and there's a lot of moms that go through it. Dads go through it too.
Yeah.
But a lot of moms in Ohio go through it. And we've actually had some moms that they've actually killed the children.
Ugh.
And then we have cases where is actually I've shared it on my Facebook, but a 13-year-old was killed in Ohio by her dad. And they cut off her hands, or he cut off her hands, raped her, and slit her throat. And the school had been reaching out to them, Children's Services, to check on her and make sure she was okay. And they said that they are understaffed and underfunded.
Wow.
But something came out just a little while ago saying that they now have a team in Children's Services that is going to investigate Children's Services. So they investigate themselves so they won't find anything wrong because they answer to nobody.
Right. I have high hopes for Dan Bongino and his role in the FBI. He's come in, and Kash Patel too. These two guys, I think, have a lot of integrity, and they're determined to fix this evil that we've been up against. So hopefully, we'll start to hear some good things. They're getting some activity, getting those guys out of here, getting the bad guys out of here. They caught the guy not too far from where I live right now. They caught this MS-13 guy in suburban Washington. It's, only 20-minute drive from downtown DC to go where he was picked up. So they're right under our noses, and they've known it, and they just let him get away with it. So now it's time to start putting him away.
Yes. Sorry to hear that story, Patsy, and we're glad that you're part of our family now. We got 2 more questions left from panel, and then Valerie and I will close it. Rosemary, Florida, and then Shell, Texas on deck. Go ahead, Rosemary. Thank you.
All right, a couple of things. First of all, I did have Trevor Loudon at a few of my events, and he is a wealth of information regarding what has been going on and the enemy within. He has tied together a network of so many things between different countries, different leaders, and so forth. It is just amazing to listen to him and also to read his book. So I would recommend it highly. Also, what can we do in the Catholic Church? Because I also go to the church. And what I have been doing, and I've just started to do that, is to give the newsletter, and Ashley and Valerie know I've been doing the newsletter, and I gave it already to the deacon and one of the priests. What can we do to help them to, open up their minds in order to understand what is going on and to be more to accept more of what what they feel is probably not acceptable.
Right.
Well, how do you feel we can do that?
I think that there's already some groups that are doing that. One of the good ones is Lepanto Institute, Lepanto, Lepanto Institute. They do a lot of advocacy. And then there's Catholics for Catholics. They do a lot of advocacy. I was actually at Mar-a-Lago last week. They had a big Catholics for Catholics event there. General Flynn spoke, Roger Stone spoke, a lot of prominent MAGA people were there, and Bishop Strickland was there, and it was a very spiritual event. So Catholics for Catholics is a good one. Lepanto Institute. What Ashley and Valerie are doing is fantastic, getting these questions and networking people around. That's where I would go. I would look at the sort of the Catholic advocacy organizations and see and ask them and bring that question to them and see if they have chapters in your area or something you can sort of network into.
Very, very good question, Rosemarie. And the last member question of the night's coming back to Texas. Shell, thank you so much in advance.
Thank you. I have two short questions. My first one is, in your research, have you ever come across anything about cloister nuns and torturing of any kind? And my second question would be the Vatican's involvement with CERN.
Vatican's involvement with what?
CERN.
The Vatican scientists and their involvement in the experiments at CERN.
CERN.
CERN. So quick answer is no to both. Doesn't mean it doesn't work, but I've been reading a book written by an author. She was a CNN political correspondent, and she dove pretty deep into it. She's the one who talked about how they hid behind canon law. And so I think it's God's Name or something is a book. I'll email it to Ashley and maybe he can put it in the newsletter or something.
Yes, Rosemarie would love to get info for the
yeah, and this book actually it goes state by state and gives examples of breakdowns the church hid, crimes the church hid, state by state, diocese by diocese, and there are some things with nuns that were done, and then she goes country by country too. There's a lot of stuff in different countries, so it's a good book. I just off the top of my head I can't remember the name of it, but I don't know what CERN is.
No problem. Well, thank you so much for those questions, Shell. And Mike, you know that Valerie and I appreciate you to the moon and back, and we would love to have you come back on Town Hall. Would you?
Sure. Yeah. Right. I think we're set up for May. Christine Dolan is the name of the author that wrote that book. I just remember her name. So she's a CNN, former CNN journalist, and she wrote a book. And it's Christine Dolan, Dolan. Very good writer. A lot of information in there.
Do you have fun on here? I've always wanted to ask you. Do you have a good time here?
Yeah, I love the questions. It's really different because everybody's got their perspective and their background. They bring it in. I learn a lot. I love that. I learn a lot here. So yeah, no, it's really interesting.
Awesome. We'd love some love on your Substack. That's Mike McCormick, one of our favorite authors, and we have signed books, and we're gonna promote his new book that came out as well, and we're gonna have him come back on the show in May. So thank you so much, Mike, for coming on tonight.
All right, Ashley. All right, Valerie. We'll see you guys. And I'll do this. I'll do a Substack on this. We'll do a Substack on this.
Oh wow! All right, I'll send you the episode.
Yeah, that'd be great. Send me the episode. And I'll take clips and we'll put it in there.
Perfect. Awesome. We love you, Mike. Good night, brother.
All right, good. Good night. Thank you.
Well, that was Mike McCormick. Now we're going to go to the state-to-state intel round. So those that are still watching us in the live stream, thank you. That is Town Hall's guest speaker segment. Now we rotate into the famous state-to-state intel round, where a lot of our members love. This is a really fun part of our show. We're going to open up tonight with one of our new members to Town Hall panel. He is from Ohio, and his name is John Stubbins. So we're going to put him front center. He's got some updates about Adam Schiff, and he's working with Border SAR and some other details. So we're going to give him the stage for a good 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll go to the next person. Thank you so much, John, and we appreciate you. You're on.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And, it's been a really trying few months because, as everybody knows, Adam Schiff was a member of the House. He got censured. Once he got censured, he was looking for the exit. And what did he do? He started, he got out of Congress as far as the House, and he runs for Senate out of California, which I cannot believe that this guy won, but he did. And, excuse me, him and his wife have committed not only mortgage fraud, but voter fraud in 2 different states. And our investigation into the shifts lasted for almost 2.5 years. And we've covered everything. We've basically crossed every T, dotted every I. And we have him and his wife on 5 felony counts, minimum, and theft from the states of Maryland and California alike. But we had to get some documents to make sure that we had the case airtight. And we started sending over the documents while he was still in the House last year over to the House Ethics Committee, legal oversight, making sure they had them and that they flagged the investigation that we sent over. And so we've been working nonstop on that. And now that he's moved over to the Senate, we're trying to get an audience for hearings so that we can testify against him and his wife, but mainly him, to get him out of the Senate. And then we are going to be working with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi to bring prosecution against him criminally on top of all that. But listen, this guy has caused this country enough heartache and enough problems, and enough taxpayer money has been wasted on his nonsense, and he's got to go. So, you know, that's the tip of the spear as to what I've been working on through my show. Most, I guess, imminently, that has to go. On top of that, and right behind that, connecting the dots are some things with Act Blue, and obviously the Russia hoax, dating back to the FISA warrants that were obtained illegally against my friend Carter Page, and what they did to him, and then subsequently moving over to the White House once President Trump won the first election. Then they continued the spying campaign against my friend General Flynn, against my friend Roger Stone, and so on and so forth. And so that investigation is also connected to the Adam Schiff investigation and also the Act Blue investigation. A lot of these, a lot of these things that we've uncovered are connected in a lot of different ways. So it's like uncovering the yellow brick road one block at a time. It's really something. So we've got that going on, and behind that, I'm working with my friend Tom Holman on a variety of things, not only construction of the border wall, construction, but human trafficking, child trafficking, the cartels, bombs that are. Look, we've already thwarted several attacks on bombs trying to be brought into the country. And again, folks, this is just what we know of. With all the gotaways that we have, we don't know what's out there. And that's the most dangerous part of this. And the biggest reason that I believe Biden, Obama, and their administrations are not only criminal, but guilty of high treason for what they've done and the shape that they've left us in. And, God bless President Trump for doing all he can, but he's not God, and he can't know every gotaway that came across that border, and even still might come across that border, whether they're from the Middle East or God knows where, that are here to do us harm. So, I spent a lot of time with Dr. Peter Pry before he died on our infrastructure, our electric grid, our nuclear, pretty much everything you can think of under the sun that would be a threat to the United States, an EMP device, different things like that. And he was probably the world's foremost expert on this subject. And so I spent a lot of time with Peter on the subject, and I have a pretty firm understanding of it, but I just don't believe that the American people, if they did, they'd probably freak out. But I don't think that they truly realize the threat that is in front of us right now and why it's imperative that we have to close his borders down. And look, if we have to go to war with the cartels, so be it. Because I don't trust the Mexican government to do their part to stop this and put us in the situation that we're in. So I know that that's a lot, that's a mouthful that I said there. I hope I didn't go too far or too long, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
So, John, thank you so much for sharing all that information. And you and I will have to connect offline to tweak your internet speed at your house. A lot of our members on the panel didn't hear what you said, and some left, and I'm trying to get them to come back. But the good news is the live audience heard everything you said. So, but don't worry, I'm going to get you fixed up. I'm a techie guy, so don't worry about that. But amazing story. You're working on shifts. You got a lot of inner workings that you're doing with Patel and Holman. I'm so blessed that you're part of this family now. Rosemarie might have a question for you related to what you were saying, and then Megeso will open up what's going on in Hawaii, try to get Mike Velarde back. Rosemarie, did you have a question directly for John?
Yes. First of all, John, thank you for your information. Now, we do a newsletter. I don't know if you've seen it, but we would like to get it out to many people as possible. And I think you probably do have a large network of people. And we're wondering if we were to email you our newsletter, if you can get it out, because it has a wealth of information. And we'd even like to have President Trump see it, because all of us have worked very hard. And I know that Ashley and Valerie would love to have that, given to, yeah, I see that, given to the people in Washington as well. This newsletter really, I could even send you back copies of it if you would like. But John, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and a lot of caring and a lot of support for our administration. So if you would kindly do that. And also, if you would kindly send us information, because our newsletter does go out across the country. And if you would like anything incorporated into the newsletter, please let us know, because I do it. And Ashley could always get that information to me, or give you my direct email, whatever is the best, so that we can provide that information, get it out. We really need to educate as many people as possible, because so many people are in the dark. So I thank.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to say, no problem with that. And that's why when Ashley invited me on, that's why I came on, because I understand that a lot of people, they want to know, they want to educate themselves, that they're willing to take the time this late at night. I get it. So that's why earlier in this on this call, I brought up my friend Trevor Loud, and I noticed that you chimed in about Trevor. So you've had Trevor at some of your visits, so you know what I'm telling you is correct. And I will tell you, that's a good starting place for everybody on this call. And I know we have so many people that we have to follow and keep up with on social media, but do yourselves a favor. It won't be a waste of time, because he's very smart. And him and I do deep dives on the CCP, on domestic organizations like the Weather Underground, Thousand Currents, dating back to Acorn, BLM, Antifa. I mean, we study these groups and we spend a lot of time on, counterintelligence against them. So do yourself a favor, check out trevorloudon.com. Again, that's trevorloudon.com. I actually typed it out in the chat if you want to make sure you get the correct spelling. But start there and check out the enemies within the church. And then everything else that I mentioned tonight, it's all relevant, it's all current, it's all imminent. Like I said, the tip of the spear there being my investigation with Schiff, only because I've had John Solomon and Peter Schweitzer, Chanel Rion, James Rosen, people like that. They've all checked my work in this investigation, and they've all printed articles and come out with articles about my investigation. They're on Twitter right now. They went viral. Chanel even interviewed Seamus Bruner, who is one of Peter's team, and Seamus is part of our team. So I've worked with Seamus Bruner. You probably have his new book, The Oligarchs. But these people are, they're not going to put their name out there into the public sphere if they haven't checked to we've got this guy. Okay, they're not going to put their name out there. So because they've done that, you can rest assured that I've got this guy. As soon as the Senate pulls me in to testify, he's going down.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing all that, John. And definitely tomorrow I'll help you boost your speed internally on your side to help out a little bit with that. But we'll work that out. We're going to go to our pillar leader on corruption. We are battling a lot of corruption within our organization. And what's going on, Miguel? So I know you have very local election things you're working on personally, but at the national level and Red America First corruption level, what can you share with everybody? And thank you so much for chiming in tonight, sir. How are you?
Well, thank you. And thank you, John, too, for your information. As you know, Hawaii, what happens in California trickles over into Hawaii as well. There's a lot of corruption here. We hear a lot of talk in the mainland of things that are going on. And we understand that because the 48 contiguous states are tied together. And we're kind of forgotten over here of where the source as being the trade routes of the Pacific, where the human trafficking and drug trafficking flows through as well. So it would be helpful if we have people that come over, like Alex Jones or other people that stop by the islands, but they don't seem to talk to what we'll say is the right people. And we're not getting the full exposure or the full story back. People, focused in on Lahaina with the terrible tragedy there with all the children that are still missing, that were identified as being disintegrated when we believe a lot of those children are still alive. And the corruption that took place there with John Pelletier, the Maui police chief, being tied to Las Vegas, then the Las Vegas shooting when the attempted assassination of the Crown Prince, as well as our own police chief, Todd Raybach, as well as our own elections that take place here that are totally corrupt. And that's why now I'm running for, at least for the Republican Party, Kauai County chair, because even though our people may have had good intentions, they can't seem to stand up to the deep state people that are in power. Myself, I've been arrested. People know that, and along through that. And it's time to have some new faces in the Republican Party over here that will stand up to the corruption, that will stand up to the insanity regarding the COVID and the vaccines and all those things that we spoke out against back then, even to the point where our county leaders and our mayor were going on television and the radio calling the unvaccinated killers and all those things that we had to put up with. So I'm running for Kauai County chair to get some new energy going here, because we have to work with all the groups on this island, whether they're Americans, Filipinos, Hawaiians, Japanese, and so on, all the cultures. And so that's what I hope to do, is to bring the districts together here. I've got to somehow interact or infiltrate, because a lot of our Republican candidates are really Democrats. That's to ensure that the liberals get in power, especially the far left, the radical left, and that's what happens here. So I'm going to be running in an election on Saturday, and so I'm in the process now of reaching out to all the various delegates to kind of put me in place, because I'm not afraid of people's position or title, because that's all it is. We're all human beings. We're all equal. And it's time that we have to stand behind the creator. In the hierarchy of law, as I put it, creator is the highest law. And to continue with that series, educating people online, just as we've done here, or attempted to do here in Kauai or throughout the islands. So I'll let, if Susan's on, or some of the other people from Hawaii, maybe update you on other things. But that's what my focus is, at least for the weekend. And of course, it's always to bring down those who are bringing everybody else down, so we can raise our vibration, so we can all operate in highest consciousness and move forward.
Well, okay, so we love you as a brother, as you know, and good luck in your election, your local election that you're going through. And we stand behind you in that, and thanks for the report tonight. So,
God's will be done.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that's our pillar leader for Red America First. Due to time constraints, we're going to ping on one of our new members to see what she thought of the experience, as we still have a lot of live people still watching what we're doing here on Town Hall in the state-to-state intel round. So Danielle, this is your first time being on Town Hall, and you got to interact with Mike, and you could share a little bit of what's going on in Ohio before you got to go to your meeting, if you want.
Yeah, I absolutely love what y'all are doing here. One of the things that, as an advocate, that I've been working really hard at accomplishing is uniting some of the top advocates nationwide, because there's only so much that we can do as individuals from here, there, and everywhere else. We're stronger together, and it is so important for the younger generations, and moving forward, we have to start thinking about our future, and it's our voices that is going to make that change that we so desperately need. So we desperately need for these younger generations to get into politics, learn the truth, do some research, talk to people, listen to their stories. There are so many stories out there that will just rip your heart out, but it is so important that we are aware, because we can't change what we can't acknowledge, and what good is it going to do anybody to keep our heads buried in the sand?
Yeah, and we're going to actually, Valerie and I was going to reach out to schedule you to come on the Unheard American Stories, and you're going to share what you're doing and some stuff that you've dealt with personally. So stand by for that. We'll definitely reach out and help advocate for what you're working on as well.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. I had a great time, and I appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. Thank you. That's Danielle from Ohio. We're going to go now to Texas real fast. Call on Doug, Texas, and figure out what's going on in the Lone Star State. And we're going to bring up a panel. Shell, Sandra, Susan, Hawaii, Rob, Ohio, to help run the intel round a little bit while Valerie and I do some bio break. But Doug, Texas, go ahead, tell us what's going on, and then I'll get everyone up here to help you out, to help us while we go to rest break.
I've got another exciting thing to do while we're sitting here going through the show. So I'm labeling all my jars.
Awesome.
The largest cold cream maker that there ever was, and I mean that in size, not in volume.
We're going to eventually put that on our store. But what's going on in Texas, brother? Tell us.
Well, what's going on is my son-in-law is back right now from the border for a couple of minutes. He's down in El Paso, and Barrett, who we've talked to before, of course, on the show. And I asked him today, I says, how are things going down there? He goes, it's quiet. It's quiet as a church mouse in El Paso. So that's the good, that's going on right there, is the numbers are down so far that, it's positive. Look forward, And the other thing that we're working on, is, of course, is what you and I have been talking about is starting about a little show backing up some things about prepping and what everybody should be doing in their own houses, whether it's distilled water or, guns and ammo or gardening or things like this. So
absolutely. Please listen to those that are watching the live stream. RedAmericaFirst.com will have more than just 2 podcasts. We're going to have 4, maybe 5, and one of them is related to prepping. One of them is related to health and food, and another is related to unheard American voices, where you can share your corruption story or personal story of something that happened to you, so other Americans could be aware of that type of scenario. But yeah, Doug, you are definitely on the hook for the Prepper Show, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to doing it as well. Just talking about, what we need to do and the kind of people we need to gather around us. It's not all about just, guns and ammo and stocking up water and things like this. There's so much more into this that we have to build communities around ourselves. So we're working a lot on that right now. And then still, like I say, my office, you can see, is a complete mess because we're still working on cold cream. So
awesome. Well, don't disclose it too much because we're going to put it on our store soon. Now I'm bringing up some panel members here to help Valerie and I run Intel while we take our dog's potty and use a little bio break as well. So I'm unmuting Sandra, Susan Hawaii. I have also Rob and Ron and Shell up here, Becky, Texas. So guys, how's the conversation go while we're gone for 10, 15 minutes? Keep it going smooth. We'll be back. Thank you.
Okay.
Rob, you go.
Oh, yep. Give me I'm unmuted. Good. Well, I guess there's a whole lot of stuff that's went on this past week. I was just watching a clip today on the CEO from NPR. Did anybody else get to watch it?
Oh, yeah, NPR, they got grilled in Congress there.
Yeah, they got grilled, but the lady didn't seem to understand that everything that she was posting is staying on the web. And I'll tell you what, with the stuff that she was posting, I wholeheartedly agree. NPR, its days are done.
Oh, yeah, hideous.
He was smug.
Worse than smug, she was trying to be condescending, would almost be the point. It's like, this doesn't have anything to, the way she was describing her feelings towards the Republicans. No wonder it's like, 75% of the bad press comes from NPR for Republicans versus Democrats. If that is even more. Anybody else have anything to put in on that?
Yes, she was playing dumb and trying to disassociate herself from some of the incriminating evidence there that was, brought up to her. That was definite. I mean, and I believe she will help us to defund the organization. So we don't need to be putting money into an organization that has 87% Democrats and doesn't, give any credence to the Republicans. So that's my take on it.
He lied. She lied and she got caught lying too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she tried to disassociate herself from it.
Yeah.
She didn't
Okay.
that.
Anybody have anything that they want to talk about, or should I just keep going here?
You want to talk about the signal snafu?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
Yes,
definitely.
by the way, they think, there could have been a cyber attack. I'm sorry, my throat. There could have been a cyber attack with regard to the information that was taken from Signal, because now it's very interesting that the Biden administration adopted Signal in December before Trump took over, and I think they may have done this themselves, and they are trying to elevate this whole situation in order to attack Trump, in order to attack Hexeth and all of our, Republicans in that situation.
Listen to this coincidence. The NPR CEO lady is also on the board of Signal.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Coincidence.
Ho, ho, ho. That is such a coincidence.
I'll tell you what, they're insidious. One of the things that stuck out to me was when Tulsi Gabbard was talking about all the government phones come with Signal on it. Now, and they're not going to they say the encryption's really good, but are they going to put a program on, an application on, that is publicly available on the government phones? And that I don't agree that they should have used it at all, but I'm sure the CIA, FBI, they could hack through. They've got the encryption, so that you might as well just scream it to the whole world. But
well, if the board members are like NPR, that woman that's on the board of NPR is on the board of Signal, doesn't that raise the issue that maybe it's not a safe platform?
It's definitely not safe. If you have it on your phone, I would suggest getting rid of it. No use putting it out when. Now, I wish they came out with an application where we could have private conversations. But
yeah, I think they're trying to formulate something like that in the wake of this.
Yeah, they say it's one of the most unsafe, signals. And, I don't know about Telegram and WhatsApp. They say those are also, I don't know. They are signals, and which ones would be the best?
Signal's actually supposed to be the best, but as I say, our intelligence organizations do know how to crack it, or else they wouldn't, have it out there. And actually, they can probably crack anything that we use.
Yeah, they say the Chinese are already, cracking these. So.
Yeah, I hope they put half the energy they put into cracking us is against our enemies, or against our adversaries, I should say. But do you think it might have been a psyop as well?
Oh, I think so. I think it's just another version of irregular warfare. A coordinated op is what I think. Signal Gate.
Yeah,
I
think so too.
Yeah, and the white hats are brilliant. They'll use it just to out the editor of Atlantic magazine and others.
Oh, he's been
his lack of character, the lack of character. So I mean, it's both sides play them. It just becomes a real interesting game there, chess game.
Yeah. One of the other concerns I had about is, how do you do the government, the government archives, everything has to be recorded and checked. If they're out there using an application that isn't tied into the government, should that be legal? Keeping records, of everything that's said and all the decisions. I believe that, to show transparency, they should use nothing but the government servers.
Mhm.
Signal was, it was military encrypted from day one, so I think that they probably assumed that that was a government. If it's military encrypted, I don't know who owns Signal actually. Personally, I know Telegram is foreign owned, but you can't even compare the two. So yeah, I don't think that it was something illegal. And they said there was no intel, there was no, war information. Yeah, that was intelligence that was released. So it's not like they did anything illegal, but I think it'll probably raise some questions about how to manage that in the future. It was an embarrassment.
Sorry, Patsy, up in Ohio, you had your hand up there. You can unmute yourself, hopefully.
Mhm.
Well, maybe not. Let's see if I can.
What about what took place in Texas? The Democrat lady, the black lady, the one that stood up and called Greg Abbott Hot Wheels.
I have the video.
Yes, let's see that.
I have the video to bring it up for you guys. So let me do that real quick.
Oh yeah, where she assaulted the reporter. Did you see that, Jimmy?
Oh yes, I did.
I understand she went to the best school. She came from a very wealthy family, and she doesn't speak like that. She went to college. She, went to the finest college, and she's, play acting.
Wait, what do you guys see? Do you guys see anything?
Blank screen.
I see the screen.
A gray screen.
Well,
a gray rectangle.
She assaulted Laura Loomer, I think.
One of her reporters.
Right. And then I just saw that Laura Loomer also mentioned that Trevor Loudon as well, and she talked highly of him. I just saw that on X.
Okay.
Well, she also had the Capitol Police to cover her for the whole time.
Yeah, let me show you guys the videos that you should see my screen now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the videos about Crockett, here's one of them here.
Shots at Governor Greg Abbott, who's in a wheelchair.
We in these hot Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess, honey.
Well, when Crockett got caught, she said, no, I wasn't making fun of his wheelchair. But I was thinking about the planes, trains, and cars he used to transfer illegal aliens.
We don't see the video, Ashley.
What?
We don't see the video playing.
What do you see? Nothing?
I see a screen, black screen, but I don't see the video.
Your Facebook and two.
Here's the
Congresswoman, do you regret your earlier comments you made about Governor Greg Abbott?
So that's what Jimmy was saying. She had the cops escort her around all the time, but
oh yeah, she had her aide carrying her purse.
Oh wow!
She's one of the loudest mouths in the Senate hearing. She is one of the loudest people.
He also should be censored.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, actually, there's rules that they can pretty much say whatever they want. Now, if I was Governor Abbott, I would paint my wheelchair a nice purple passion and maybe put a racing stripe on it. Nothing else. What you do is you make fun of them. When they think they're insulting it, make fun of them. Throw it back in their face.
Exactly.
Because actually, it's kind of a cool name. Governor Hot Wheels. I kind of like that. But.
I have a lot of info on her, but so I found out how she got her $9 million net worth. Since January of 23, Crockett's been a silent partner in a DC lobbying scheme run by Capstone Strategies, the same firm that's tied to Epstein financial trails. She funnels insider intel committee briefings on housing and infrastructures to clients like Big Pharma and real estate giants. On March 14th of 23, she met a Pfizer VP at Georgetown Steakhouse, pocketing $250,000 in cash for tipping them on a $1.2 billion NIH grant leak. The townhouse she bought a townhouse June 20 of 23 titled Trace to a Shell LLC called JLC Holdings, funded by that payoff. She has extortion of corporate donors, so Crockett's leveraged her House Oversight Committee seat to shake down donors. In November of 23, she threatened a Dallas-based oil exec with a public ethics probe unless he wired $800,000 to her personal account routing number ending in 8472. The exec compiled on December 1st of 23 funded laundering through a Cayman account and funneled into a $1.5 million loft purchase closed January of 24. Her oversight grilling of oil CEOs on March 6th of 24 was a front. Half the room owed her silent money. She has trafficking kickbacks, and she also has fake NGO grifts.
Why can't they arrest her then?
I think she is definitely an enterprising person.
Yeah.
Sounds dirty to me.
Well, I think there has been a legislation introduced to censor her. I'm not sure if it's been passed though.
But all that criminal activity, she should be charged and kicked out of Congress.
Yes.
Thank you for all that information. Where are you getting all this information from?
I do a lot of research, and I have a lot of little birdies.
Good job.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You really.
Yeah.
You deserve a lot.
Have all the congressmen, have a forensic accounting done on them. Find out exactly where they're getting all this money.
Well, see, and that's the thing. Like, I know how to. We really need to have like people that can teach each other. Like I teach you guys how to properly research. I mean, Glenn Beck isn't the only. He has thousands of people that he trains or they train. Intel, all that other stuff. People in the military, they teach these people how to do this stuff. And because there's a right way to do it, and if you don't know how to do it right, then you're not going to find anything because they make it hard.
So real quick, guys, I need to tell the live audience that we're going to shut off the live stream due to sensitive topics that we're going to bring up, and we don't want to be banned on the social media platforms that we stream on. So those that are watching live stream know that you could join our panel directly and engage in the intel round. We're going to go in the unmuted section of that now. And we get censored on platforms like TikTok and YouTube and other things like this, and we can't afford to get a strike because that puts us backwards in a lot of our advertising. So thank you for tuning in this week. RedAmericaFirst.com. You get the live links. Hashtag Ashley Weiss, ASHLEYWEIS, or hashtag RedAmericaFirst, and you find us on social media. Ping us, being part of us, and we appreciate that.